2021 virtual Dobšinský Kopec hill climb is presented in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, Elite Gaming, ESTV, and Motorvision.tv.
A 1v2 for the tournament. Pressure is on.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
Hello everybody and welcome to what is the 8th round of the European Hill Climb Championship virtual here, broadcasted by GTR 24H after a little bit of a break throughout the latter portion of the summer months. We're firmly back now for every 2 weeks actually until the end of the season coming up in 6 races time. We're halfway through. We've had 6 events and we've still got 6 more to go. We visit Slovakia here this week where we'll be having the longest, I believe anyway, the longest distance hill climb we've had so far at 6.8 kilometres, which is a fairly long way. And of course, as you can see on your screens already, it's been raining pretty much all day, and so that's just going to add an extra element of difficulty for all of these guys as they try and negotiate their way around here in the changeable conditions. Not helped of course by the fact that all 3 times are going to count here today as well, and so there's absolute maximum pressure on every single run that these guys actually do out here today. So plenty to look forward to throughout the next couple of hours or so. My name's Ewan O'Leary, we're taking you through the day as always for the European Hill Climb Championship. And yeah, we're massively looking forward to it once again, kicking off a second half of our season. We did, as I've briefly mentioned there, missed the 7th round 2 weeks ago, but that will just be tagged on to the end of our calendar now, and so round 7 will effectively be at the end, even if there's 12 rounds, if that makes any sense at all. It'll be the Coppa Paolino Teodori, in Italy, will round off our season on the 6th of December now, 2 weeks later than scheduled, but it's no big deal really, because we'll still get our 12 rounds in 2021, and we'll still get to visit all of the locations that were promised at the start of this one, so just a couple of weeks longer in terms of this championship now, as opposed to what it was about a month ago. But focusing back on this race here, which is, I guess, officially round 8, as I mentioned, 3 runs as always, but all 3 count on this occasion. Last time we had that, I can't quite remember where it was a round ago or 2, maybe in the Czech Republic when we had that. We saw a lot of different situations arising, and we saw a lot of cars actually not finishing the event there because of the particular way the heats were working, and the fact that all 3 counted. You can't afford to have a DNF or anything like that, so you do have to be exceptionally careful, I think it's fair to say, when you're making your run up the hill here today. 397 metres will be gained throughout the 6.8 kilometres uphill today as well, which is an average of 5.8%. One of the, oh my goodness, that's Sebastian Renard going over onto his roof briefly there. Hopefully getting those out of the way and here in qualifying before we actually get to the proper runs in a few moments time. We'll see a replay of it here. He's getting things a little bit too wide really into this right-hander you're going to see right now, and getting himself onto the bank and then into some of the rocks on the outside, and over he goes, the overall championship leader in the E2 category. But anyway, 5.8% of an average, which is one of the steeper we've had so far this season. So it is quite fairly hefty, this hill. And there's some rises and falls within it as well, as you're bound to see. So some of the sections are very steep indeed. The camera doesn't really do it justice because the TV and the like always flattens off the cameras, or flattens off the gradients, so it's always a little bit more severe than we're seeing on our screen. So certainly a test for these cars and the drivers alike. But let's take a look at the championship standings heading into today, because we've got various different situations and permutations starting to arise. So let's start with the teams. And it was a Thunder team actually making a big step forward last time out, gaining 12 points on Equipe Regal, but gap is still 23 points between the two of them, and then 3rd and 4th place teams are only 1 point apart, but starting to get towards 60 points adrift in that championship. So it is beginning to be a 2-horse race a little bit, but it may not be by the end. We'll wait and see who reigns victorious in that one. Let's move down to E2 SCSS 3000, where Sebastian Renard has been winning the last 4 races, and so he's leading the championship by a really large margin. He's got Francois Corratti for company here today in that category, but likely to take another win without problems for himself, so he's looking in a good place in that championship. Chris Bennett, of course, looking in a good place in his too, because he's the only man in that one. Tobias Bashadorf is really starting to flex his muscles in the E1 plus 2000 category. Despite that no point scoring finish at the Czech Republic 2 rounds ago, a win last time out extending his championship lead to 20 points over Antonis Paranopoulos, and Agios Andre, who are tied for 2nd, and then George Mallis is another 30 points back, starting to become a little bit distant from those guys. And in Group H, which was one of the closest for a long time, however, John Spider's 3 victories on the bounce now is starting to put that title out of reach for most, as 52 points is his margin over Vincent Tukula, who's not appeared at the last 2 rounds, I'm afraid. And then Philip Raab, who's not finished the last 2 rounds, which is not ideal. Then Julien Delage, who hasn't scored in the last 3. So 2nd, 3rd and 4th, not scoring for the last 2 rounds. You know, we were back in June, July when those guys last scored points, and John Spider's been picking up wins while they've not been doing that. So really starting to extend a lead. Now, Philippe Raab thankfully is here today and might start to take a few steps forward, but let's wait and see on that one. We've also got a new driver on the grid in that category that we'll talk about in a few moments' time. Could provide some surprises for us here today. And finally moving on down to Javi Rodriguez's lead in the E1 2000 category, having won all of the races but one, and he came second in that one. So he's got a big lead now. It is 68 points over David Tashev and Nick Coxidis, who is in third place, 9 points further back than that. Challenging Rodriguez today, though, looks like it's going to be Valadis Corrales, who's actually in sixth place in that championship, having taken 2 second places to Rodriguez in the last 2 rounds, looking to change that around here today. Let's wait and see if he can indeed do it. There we are then. There are your championship standings. Heading into the final 6 races of this 12-race calendar. Let's go through some of the qualifying times and the qualifying positions that are going on at the moment then, because this of course sets the running order for the event coming up. The fastest car will go off first and the slowest will go off last. So that could really play into the hands of the guys going further down the field if the rain has really halted and dry lines maybe even appearing. Let's wait and see. As I can hear somebody spinning somewhere around, I'm not quite sure who, but yes, anyway, take a look at some of the qualifying times. This one on your screen, Sebastian Renard is currently leading by 13 seconds in front of Francois Corratti, more like 12 actually, but it's still a very long way. Those guys are the only 2 in that category, so not much to speak of there. However, in E1 plus 2000, it's looking very interesting indeed, because Tobias Bashadorf, Antonis Paranopoulos, and also Agius Andre have been trading lap times. All 3 of them are separated by 1.6 seconds at the moment. They're also fighting over a championship between the 3 of them. And of course we've got Philotheus Argyru in the Audi not too far away either, who could really cause an upset today. Let's wait and see if he can do it, but those 4 are the ones really fighting it out in that category. In E1 2000, Javi Rodriguez has put on such a show. Even in qualifying here, he's actually in front of Group H in the running order, which doesn't happen that often. They normally intermingle with each other a little bit, but Rodriguez is rarely in front of the Group H drivers, but he is on this occasion. He's managed to get himself just nearly 4 seconds over Valadis Corrales in E1 2000. Then you have to go down to Nick Coxidis, who's a good 13 seconds adrift, so it looks like it's going to be between Rodriguez and Valadis again, as we've seen recently. That was Frederic Techer on your screen having a bit of an unsettling moment going into the right-hander there, but he continues on his way. And we're talking about this a little bit while we were doing the championship rundown, but we might have a bit of a surprise on our hands in Group H. It's Andras Rosival, so 3 minute 3.8, and he's currently leading that class in front of John Spider by nearly 4 seconds, 3.5 seconds to his name right now. So that's impressive. Philippe Raab is 8 seconds down, with Uri Hernandez getting closer and closer to the pack actually. He started in his first few events here at the European Hill Climb Championship, was really quite a long way off the front runners in Group H, but every week we come back here, he's getting closer. So certainly doing a good job. Hernandez got 5th place last time out after a 6th place in his first event, and he's in 4th in the qualifying standings at the moment, so let's see where that will get him by the end of it. So let's talk a little bit about this particular hill climb here. The Dobšinský Kopec in Slovakia. That's just outside the town of Dobinsa, and climbs up towards a ski resort by the looks of it, or some kind of winter sports kind of facility. I guess with the finish being at 840 metres, it's possible in the winter months. It goes up to very nearby a lake actually. When the drivers, well, in real life, obviously you'd have to do this here in R-Factor 2, but in real life, when you're driving back down the mountain on a separate road to the hill climb to get back to the start again, you pass by one of the lakes or a lake in the mountains around here. We're pretty slap bang in the middle of Slovakia geographically, where all the high ground is, so that's what we're playing with here today, and I hope that we'll get before we transition into the first heat of the day, we can go on board with somebody for an entire run of this hill climb, and I'll try and talk you through it, because it is a unique one, as all these are, but it's got one particularly unique feature that is a little bit surprising to see really on a hill climb, but it's nevertheless very interesting, and so hopefully we'll be able to show that to you at some point before we get into the old heat here. And they're taking a look at Tobias Bashadorf in the first position currently of the E1 2000. Let's have a look at the weather, which is clearly playing a pretty big role in the action here today. And you can see on the left-hand side, it's getting quite grizzly over there. And as we saw briefly, that flash kind of strand of rain very briefly, it just shows that at this kind of altitude how quickly rainstorms can actually appear. We always comment it in road racing at places like Spa and the Nürburgring, but we're playing with even higher ground than we do in the Ardennes forest or in the Eifel Mountains, where those two circuits are. And so definitely expect rain to be rolling in. So yeah, let's see how the day unfolds really for these guys. Oh, that's a bit deep in for Frederic Techer. Slight touch on the barriers as well, but he's giving it a go in and into the barriers again there, just giving it a go in the E1 2000 plus 2000 category, excuse me. A little bit off the pace at the moment, I think it's safe to say. Currently 12 seconds down to Tobias Bashadorf, but he's in arguably the most competitive category in the series at the moment, so certainly forgive him for that. I think he's actually given Group H a bit of a go in this season as well. I seem to remember, unless I'm remembering things wrong, of course, which is possible. Fourth place in the third round of our championship here this year was Techer. As we're seeing a lot of guys queuing up here at the start. Let's hope we can get an onboard view though, because it would be certainly interesting to see is Techer just wrestling a little bit with the barriers there and there. Oh dear, he just gets to the finish there as well, just around the corner. It's a slightly strangely placed finish, I must admit. Normally you'd see it on a straight, but halfway around a bend, the climb just ends. So, although to be fair, if you went on much further, you'll end up in someone's town. So it's probably a good idea. Just a small crossroads up the way, and then what I believe is it's just some kind of winter sports resort or ski station or something. Ski jump, maybe they have one of them. I'm not sure, but yeah. None of that today, obviously, because we're just coming off the back of summer. No snow around today, but changeable conditions are certainly here in almost a spring-like way, but still not quite there yet. About 6 months away, but yeah, we've got a fairly big downpour today. And by the looks of things, it looks like it's getting a little bit drier. Just trying to peer into the top right-hand side of the screen and seeing a very much lack of spray coming off that car. Ludovic Calvet in the Opel GT Psycho, it is. Just gets himself ready to start a new run, and this is what these guys have to do. They have to basically queue up towards the end of qualifying, and the amount of them out there at the moment. Look out, 22 of them who actually, 23 maybe, who are actually trying to set lap times all at the same time here. Just get a bit busy. We do have 23 cars on the grid for this one, which is a very normal and number that we've seen so far this season quite a lot, but unfortunately for some of them we haven't been able to get all of those to the end, particularly those with or that require 3 runs to complete. Pesha looks like he's finally getting ready to go. And he does indeed. So we're not quite on board, but we're at least watching a full run here. So I'll take you through it anyway. Starting off fairly rudely with a very swift hairpin, but things do open up here in the first part of this run. We've got a very, very long left-hander, which looks like quite a tight hairpin on the map, but as you can see, you can take a bit of speed around here. And especially this part to end it, coming over the crest there, all out of shape with Techer, and now we go on board. Just clipping to the right slightly, and then onto this incredibly long straight for a hill climb. You very, very rarely see this on any mountain road, but there's a good 10 seconds of full throttle, dead straight action there, and a really committed right-hander after that. And then obviously you've got a bit more of a flowing right-hander breaking into a bit of a left, and then with a chicane coming up, and this is where things really do start to get rude. Very technical section from here right the way to the finish, and we're barely halfway through at this point. That's the first chicane, and then it's basically hairpins to the end. There's the first of them, and in pretty quick succession we're going to be seeing the next. Techer just catching the car, sliding his way through there. Nicely controlled though, and this car does look like quite a nice one to drive in terms of the way it can just catch itself, and looks fairly controllable, if we're honest. Techer might have something to say about that, but he's certainly working hard at the moment. It's more of a 90-degree right-hander as opposed to a hairpin, but it's still tight, a bit tighter than Techer was expecting by the looks of things. And now to a bit more of a flowing kind of left section, and a very tricky one coming up here, left straight into a tight right-hand hairpin. And there it is, all the people watching. Definitely don't want to be going out too wide. They ruin your line through here. Look how steep it gets out of here as well. This is the camera flattening off this gradient, and it still looks pretty bad even on the cameras, so really real strain on the engines there. Bit of a chicane, which is a little bit more of an obstacle in these conditions than it would normally be. And then a final hairpin. And this bizarre finishing section, which is halfway around a corner. You're about to see it right now. You can peer into the distance to see the finish. And here it is, halfway around a bend, into the barriers, because it doesn't matter anymore. It just, completes the run. And gives us a good show around this lap. That was actually his best lap time of the session so far. Improved by a good half a second in the first sector, and lost half a second in the first sector, but gained it back in the middle. And he's managed to gain a little bit of time in that one, so he moves up to, well, stays in fourth at the moment. Then just to explain, in case you've not been with us before or you just need a bit of a reminder of how it works, we've got 3 runs coming up. The fastest from qualifying will go off first, so Sebastian Renau will kick us off, and then it looks like Andreas Valles will end us off, but he's not set a lap time yet, so he may, and he's out there right now, so he might well improve and not be the last man out there anymore. But anyway, slowest driver will be coming home last, of course, getting out there, and then we'll repeat that process 3 times. All of the times count here today, and so high pressure for all of these guys, especially the Agius Andre, trying to gain points on Tobias Bashadov in their championship. It's a really close championship by the looks of things at the moment, that one, so very much looking forward to seeing how it goes and pans out, really. And in Group H, whether Andres Rosival can win on his debut in the European Hill Climb Championship, that really would be a story. And of course, this category with Valerius Corrales, and he maybe deny Rodriguez a 6th victory in a row. Here's Paranopoulos with a similar job to Agius Andre. Oh, and he's committed through there. He knows exactly where these Armco barriers end, and used to even a bit of the grass on the right hand side there to get himself around. But that car doesn't look like it's quite handling as well as the Lancers, gotta be honest. The Ford Escort there, just not quite as controllable and good to drive by the looks of things, but anyway, let's wait and see on that one. He may be able to still produce a good time. He's actually catching somebody here, which is not normally supposed to happen, and it more than likely won't when the real heats get underway, but when they set off in a strange order, sometimes this can happen. And you can just see these two in 2 different categories. There's not really anybody at fault here, but Paranopoulos knows he's going to be slowed up anyway and decides to just save everyone the hassle and get back to the pit lane, as most of these guys will be doing now, because the time is very much nearly over. I believe Angelopoulos is going to be the final one to set off here and start a qualifying time. This time is up now, but I guess we've got to let these guys finish their lap times, and then got to set the order as well. For this one, Zaggy Sandray just runs wide. Thankfully those trees are not solid, so we can get away with that. So then, qualifying is very nearly over here on the Dobšinský Kopec in Slovakia, excuse me. It's the 8th round of the European Hill Climb Championship Virtual here in 2021, and we'll be back with the first heats and the first proper runs after this.
The 2021 virtual Dobšinský Kopec Hill Climb is presented in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, Elite Gaming, ESTV, and Motorvision.tv.
A 1v2 for the tournament. Pressure is on.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
Welcome back to the 8th round of the European Hill Climb Championship here in 2021, broadcasted by GTR 24H. Qualifying very nearly complete, but cars still going around at the moment. While we were on the break there, Sandray was just completing a lap as we were watching, and he did actually go a good second quicker than he'd previously been. And so he's up to second now in that category. He'll be going off just behind Bashadov when we get this first heat underway. Oh, that's right back. Oh my goodness. Ludovic Carvet just getting things wrong a little bit there, and nearly getting caught up with John Spider, which two-car incident is not something we often see in the hill climb. No stranger to big accidents if things do go wrong, but it's not many ultra high-speed corners here. There's a very committed one after the long straight, but still fairly slow speed and difficult here. Some of the ones we've been to so far have been very high speed and difficult in certain sections, which is obviously where most of the big crashes do happen. So expecting more to get to the end than we saw in the Czech Republic when we went there a few rounds ago. In similar circumstances where all three heats counted towards the overall victory. In 2 weeks' time it won't be this, it's basically alternating week by week. Basically alternates between 2 and 3. Although in 2 weeks' time we'll be having round 9, and we only have 2 heats that day, and the best one will count. So it's basically a fastest run wins on that occasion. But as I mentioned, it's largely alternating for most of the rest of the season. After this one, there's 2 more. All 3 heats count, and that's the final 2 rounds, so we've got a little bit of time to wait for that. The qualifying ends a little bit later than normal, but the first heat will be beginning very soon. And of course the conditions are dodgy. Going to be on and off rain showers all day long, appearing and then disappearing very quickly. Drivers better be glad we're not racing about 50 kilometres or so to the west today, because that is a proper sustained downpour. And you can see just at the end of this weather report, you didn't be able to see it last time really, but there's certainly a big bubble of rain coming up picking up on us from the south, so that could provide some more sustained rainfall than we've been seeing so far. Been largely drizzly, really. So yeah, let's get the first heat underway. We'll be doing in a very short moment. We're on the Dobšinský Kopec in Slovakia here today, starting a climb from just outside of the town of Dobšina. I'm travelling 6.8 kilometres uphill towards a ski station at 840 metres above the ground. In real life on this hill we've had 4 wins for the Osella FA30 we've got on show at the front, and 4 wins for the Norma N20 being driven by Francois Carazzi here today. But with its superior statistics and of course the fact that Ron has won 5 on the bounce now, we're expecting the Osella to be victorious once again here this time. For once again in this season really, we've not seen it be toppled yet. If you're going to try and beat Sebastian Renat in a hill climb here, then you'd probably choose the Osella as well, so it's unlikely we're going to see a Norma victory this season, but never say never, I suppose. And And anyway, I could find records of hill climbs. There might even have been European Hill Climb Championship events every year since 2003, which is becoming an increasingly scary long time ago. 18 years now. There's been an event running here. And it will do the same again today for the 8th round of our championship. And technically the 8th round. This round 7 is going to come at the end, if you see what I mean, but yes, round 8 here in Slovakia. Just looking up ahead a little bit as well, in 2 weeks' time we'll be going to Italy and the Trento Bondone. In 2 weeks' time, the 11th of October, that one, and it will be broadcasted live here on GTR 24H as always, on YouTube and ESTV here today, starting at 8:30 UK time and 9:30 in Europe, to get a feel for the cars and have a little look at qualifying, see who's where, and then getting into the heat at just past 10 o'clock European time. After that, then we'll be going to Saint-Ursanne in Switzerland. Many hills to be playing with there, so we'll be making use of that one. And then heading to Slovenia, just not so far away. We're spending a lot of time in this kind of region in Central and Eastern Europe. Ever since we came to the Czech Republic, really, at round 5, we've been hopping around these bordering nations. So Slovenia will be after that. I've got until the 8th of November to decide how I'm going to pronounce that hill climb. And then moving on to round 12, 2 weeks later than that, is the Croatian leg, which was going to be our finale on the 22nd of November, but it's no longer going to be. It's going to be our penultimate round instead. And then we're going to round it off with the Coppa Paolino Teodori in Italy, the only nation that we'll be visiting on more than one occasion, and we'll be going there twice in less than 2 months. Well, as you might be able to hear, that deafening sound was Sebastian Ronat getting himself ready. Now, he was leaving the pit stalls there and looked like a man who was very eager to get things underway. And that's exactly what he's going to do right now. Starting us off on the Dobšinský Kopec in Slovakia. Here with the first run of the day, the first proper run. It's going to count. And another chance to look at these absolutely mind-bending E2 SCSS 3000 category machines. Truly astonishing to watch these ones. Fastest cars we have by some way entered into this event, and we're going to reach some real big speeds on this long, flat out and dead straight section as well for a good portion of it. And into this right-hander, which is normally just a dab on the brakes, very committed, but these wet weather conditions are going to be slowing these guys down. But I'm not taking any risks here, really. Of course, a DNF from any of these runs will be a DNF from the event, so he just needs to get round, and with his pace advantage over Francois Coratti, he's certainly odds-on favourite for a win here. Making some staggering speeds around some of these corners. That's more of a flowing 90 degree, but it's still going to be difficult here. Coming up towards left-hander and then a hairpin in short order. So difficult in the second half of this climb here. Standing water won't be too much of a problem here today. Like we see in road racing, often we talk about the puddles collecting water and talk about you can really end up going canoeing. Sometimes it can get so wet, but the water obviously drains quite well here with obviously the hillsides, and the fact that we're going uphill anyway means that the water doesn't sit there for long. And forces of gravity taking their course, of course, so that doesn't mean the rain has no effect, but certainly a limited effect as Sebastian Monat completes for the first time today with a 25.7, 2 minute 25.7. Is the man trying to do a little bit better than that, Francois Corratti. Judging by his qualifying performance, it's going to be a little bit difficult for him to do so, but wonderful sound you're hearing, of course, is from the Zytec V8 engine. 460 horsepower, not as much as the Acela, and it's a little bit heavier as well than normal. Weather conditions not likely to be a factor in this particular category because these two will be running so close together in terms of their road position. It must be about a minute or so between them. That's really not time for the track conditions to change, and there's no cars in between them to sweep any water away if indeed the rain stops. So Corratti has got a mountain to climb today. In more ways than one, I suppose. Corratti comes over the line. It's a 39.2 from him, I'm afraid. 13.5 seconds down. Now then. Tobias Bashadorf, championship leader by 20 points in E1 plus 2000. And fastest qualifier as well for this race. Can he replicate that little bit of magic in his first run here? The pressure's on from behind with Agnieszka Andrei and Antonis Paranopoulos as well in close attendance. The onboard view from Bashadorf's car from on the left hand side of his screen. Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 4 and looks like just completes there, and see what the time is. A 46.1. That does stand up very well to what he did in qualifying, considering qualifying lasts for 2 hours. You don't need to be in there the entire time, but you just need to make sure you're there at the end for your time to be registered. But, you've got a lot of time to think about your lap there and a lot of time to perfect things that go wrong, but Bashadorf straight off the bat there and straight on it. And fair play to him. Wondering how these wet weather conditions are going to affect Ford Escort, because it doesn't look like a very nice car to drive to me, but let's see what Paranopoulos can do with it. Andrei's time about 2.8 seconds slower than Bashadorf on that occasion there, so he's going to need to make up some time in the next heat as we look at the Ford Escort coming over the line. Paranopoulos right now goes better than Andrei by 1.9, so a very good time. A very good time indeed. Less than a second lost to Bashadorf in that run there. Very impressive indeed. So he's got a lot of reason to be pleased as we look for the first time today at Chris Bennett. He's in the Tata's Formula car. The only man in a... Oh, and he's off! In a big way. Lost bodywork front wing gone, I think, for the Formula. Yes, it is indeed. There's going to be a lot of understeer going on there. Let's take a look at how it happened. All 3 runs count today, and you can't afford a mistake like this. Just got a bit oversteery on the entry. And he's in the wall again, I think. These are live pictures. I think he's in the wall. Oh, no, they're not, sorry. Live pictures, he's still going. Albeit at a reduced pace. Now, Teixeira might, well, end up catching him here. Oh, well, they're actually given a little bit more space, I think, because Chris Bennett is not in either Agios Andre or Fred. Oh, credit Teixeira, sorry, I was just looking the other way and just hit the wing of Chris Bennett. Going through that corner there and unsettled that car badly there. We'll see where that debris goes and how it affects. Oh, it looks like it's gone off into the woods there, so it doesn't look like it's going to affect anybody else, but it's certainly going to have affected Teixeira there. Bennett comes over the line now and he's well down on where he should have been there. It's going to be difficult for him to make up that time as well. He may well finish behind a good 5 of the E1 plus 2000 cars by the looks of things, because yeah, that's not an ideal start for him, as Teixeira, despite that little moment, looks like he's going to complete without too many more problems after that. Does a 56.0. He's nearly 10 seconds off of Tobias Bashadov there. Now then, I'm not sure for what reason, but John Spider hasn't left the garage yet in the position that I thought he has to, or he would have to. However, he's still in the garage without having left yet. Also seeing no front bumper on for Pascalis Angelopoulos there. He comes in just in front of Chris Bennett, but also with not all of the bodywork that he started with, so interested to see how that ended up happening. We go on board with our championship leader in the E1 2000 category, Javi Rodriguez, in the Honda Civic TCR. Front-wheel drive car, which does certainly have its benefits in wet weather conditions, but getting the real tyres up to temperature is going to be a bit of a problem, especially considering the first part of the lap's not too technical. It's difficult to build temperature, so he's certainly got his hands full, but completes without too many problems. Which is 3 minute 0.7. Faster than Chris Bennett there, actually. It's very impressive. Now then, Andreas Roosevelt, lightning fast in qualifying. And a big surprise to see that as well, but he's not going to be a feature in this championship because there are 150 points available and he's 120 behind John Spider, so he's not going to pose a championship challenge, but now he'll take a few events, goes over the line to start his challenge for this one. Was only slightly slower than Javi Rodriguez there. No excuses for jumping around the two categories, by the way, but they're very intermingled today, for whatever reason. Something about this climb is lending itself to the two categories being very well matched, actually. And so we're seeing a lot of Group H and E1 2000 competition all at the very same time. For whatever reason that is. But here's John Spider anyway. In the Fiat X19. surprising 300 horsepower out of 320 horsepower out of this very small car. But no, it's certainly powerful, and John Spider knows what to do with it as well, because he's got a 52-point championship lead at the moment, and 60 points over his nearest rival who's in the race today, so that really is going to help him. Validis Corrales is about to come to land, just does right now, and he was really matching Rodriguez in qualifying, but he's immediately lost 2.8 seconds there. There may have been a mistake somewhere. Although there doesn't seem to be a particular place where he has lost a staggering amount of time. 2 seconds in the middle sector is a little bit much, but only a small mistake would account for 2 seconds, so that's going to be very disappointing to him. As John Spider completes and does a very good time. Half a second quicker than Rosival, which is not, well, unexpected, really. As we look at Philip Raab, trying to keep things under control. Oh, and not doing a very good job of it by the looks of things. Having a spin there. We see it in slow motion. It was looking fairly spectacular for a while, but just caught something on the inside of the corner there. And had to do a 3-point turn to get out, so it wasn't ideal. And now Nick Koksakidis is going to be quite close in attendance, actually. And here he is, in the Fiat Punto, I believe that is. Very cool car this to have going, racing up the hill climb. Of course, not lessening really at any point right now. It's quite wet out there. So let's see, is Philip Raab picking it? Yeah, it doesn't seem to be too damaged by that particular incident, but still going to have cost him a lot of time. We'll see where Uri Hernandez gets to as well, because he was doing alright in qualifying. As mentioned, he's been 6th in his first race, 5th in his second one, qualified in 4th, so there's potential there, certainly, for a good finish. Now, how much time is that going to have cost Philip Raab in the end, is the big question. Misjudged things ever so slightly while he was drifting around that corner. Oh, and speaking of misjudgment, Nick Koksakidis in the barriers at the very final turn. That's going to have damaged him a little bit in terms of lap time. So look. Yeah, loses about 7 seconds to Javi Rodriguez in the lead of the class. But more surprisingly and more disappointingly for Philip Raab, he comes in a good 25 seconds down on the 2 leaders in Group H, so he has had a disappointing show of things just there. As the spray is really starting to, as soon as I said the spray is not really lessening at all, it's done just that, actually. and a little bit more of a downpour probably needed for more wet weather racing. As I saw a bit of bonnet. Oh, it belongs to Frank Dupara, who's just lost a front bumper there. Uriah Hernandez with a decent time, by the way, just saw going over the line, but he's still a good 12 seconds down on the two leaders. It's becoming a two-horse race in Group H as well. Yeah, Frank Dupart trying to recover from losing that front bumper, and just look at the rear wing on this car. It's Jose Villegas in the Mercedes 190E. Good engine and a fantastic rear wing, and it's bright green. So what more could you want, really? Not pushing things to the limit so far. That's the corner we saw Chris Bennett get caught out on, and he's got the most downforce of anybody you might be able to imagine. So being in a Formula car, so unfortunately they've not quite placed the bumper cam quite right there. Need to have a word with the camera engineers there, but anyway. To be honest, you don't even need to be on board to appreciate the sound of this thing. It's very loud. It's going over a small crest there. As I mentioned though, Villegas really not taking any risks here, just trying to get to the end first of all, because obviously not making it to the end of one of your runs means that you won't make it to the end of the event at all. Well, Olive Tan is going to be the last person to actually get out there and get onto the climb. He is just about to do so, and we do have actually 5 cars out there running as things stand, but if we hold off any longer then we're going to miss the start of Heat 2, so we're going to step away for a couple of moments and take a brief break, and when we return, the second run of the Dobšinský Kopec in Slovakia will be upon us. We'll be back in a moment.
Virtual Dobšinský Kopec Hill Climb is presented in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, Elite Gaming, ESTV, and MotorVision.tv.
A 1v2 for the tournament. Pressure is on.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
welcome back to Dobšinský Kopec in Slovakia, where we have the 8th round of the European Hill Climb Championship for 2021. And the first run has just been completed. Sebastian Ronau was the fastest the first time around, and there were a couple of surprises up and down. There's looking very good and looking very close in E1 plus 2000, but especially Group H with Andreas Roosevelt and John Spider. That's looking like the closest. E1 2000 not looking too bad either, with Rodriguez and Corrales. It's all looking very promising. Time will be coming up soon for the second heat. It looks like Ronald just readying himself, and there we go. Sebastian Ronau ready and is about to begin his run. And there he is, setting off for the second time today. He did 2 minute 25.7 last time around, which was good enough to put him 13.5 seconds in the lead, so don't expect any, well, I was about to say don't expect any heroics on this run, but he's already driving quite quickly. Not driving like a man with a big lead. He's got 92 points in the championship and a big lead in this event, but not slowing down for anybody. They're going to a bit of a drying section now. Really is starting to get a bit drier. Maybe by the end of this run we'll start to see some on the dry tyres and without any form of spray appearing after them. So, interesting times for those further down the running order who've got a big job on their hands to figure out how they're going to manage all that. It's an easy call for Ronau at the moment, still treaded tyres required. The moisture is just a little bit too much at the moment. And of course, as is the case with many of the hill climbs we've been on so far, I mentioned this particularly when we were in Asturias for the Spanish round, that the trees kind of hold the moisture down on the road, and very difficult for the water to clear itself when there's so much greenery around, as there is here as well. It's a little bit further removed from the actual paved surface than it was in Spain, but it's still certainly difficult for the water to get away, and so the wet weather tyres will probably be required for the entire event anyway, with the threat of more downpours quite imminent actually. But Sebastian Ronau negotiates the wet weather conditions perfectly for the second time today, and goes over 2 seconds quicker than he did last time. A real man on a mission, despite the fact that there really wasn't much of a mission to be had there, but he was really doing it anyway. Francois Corrati is the man trying to chase him down. Maybe looking to improve on his own time as well. I do wonder how much of that run out time is the track conditions getting better, or he is just going a little bit committed, a little bit better himself. But let's see with the time from Corrati. over the line now. And he's actually gone a bit slower, so clearly Sebastian Rana was very, very committed on that run. Managed to get himself to go a little bit quicker. He now holds a huge lead going into the final run of the day. Over 30 seconds is his lead heading into the final run. Tobias Bashadov hasn't got much of a lead to sit on at all. Less than a second back to Angelos Paranopoulos, excuse me. Let's see what the time is going to be from the German. Oh, goodness me. Oh, and in the barriers. Paranopoulos in the barriers in the Ford, and that's going to cost him some time. Bashadov finishes now. And that's a good time. Nearly half a second quicker than what he managed last time, and with that mistake from the Ford driver, there's certainly the opportunity for a big lead coming up here. Indeed, when you do make that mistake as well, you can really be thrown off the rhythm. So it may continue to affect Paranopoulos past the mistake itself, giving a chance to Agios Andre maybe to go for this one. Andre was improved on his time there, but still not even within a second of Bashadov. So he's really praying for a mistake at this point. Frederic Techer is hoping for a bit of a miracle to get himself on the podium here. Paranopoulos completes and actually goes a bit slower. He loses 1.5 seconds. So his deficit is 2.4 heading into the final run of the day. Not good for him at all. He's got triple screen going on at the moment, on board with Frederic Techer in the main part. And into the barriers hard, and a spin around for Techer. Oh, that's a very neat way of getting back, going in the right direction, but it's going to still have cost him some time. Chris Bennett comes up towards the line. There he does exactly that. Much better from Bennett that time. He manages to get to the finish without particular issues, and there is the issue. Frederic Techer. I've never seen anybody get back pointing in the right direction again like that in my life, but really very effective. Anyway, he's cost himself a bit of time in that one, you'd expect. And here's the line anyway to confirm it. Yeah, loses himself about 4 seconds compared to where he's meant to be, in inverted commas. Now then, a couple of very interesting times coming in very soon. Paschalis Angelopoulos is going to come over the line, but then it's going to be the turn of Javi Rodriguez in his 2.8 second lead. If you can extend that into the final run, then you can pretty much say it's done, barring issues in this category. But is there going to be a bit of a performance here from Corrales? Valdez Corrales, who's been challenging Rodriguez for the last couple of events, but not able to topple him just yet. Is today going to be its day? Soon after that, we've got Andreas Rosival and John Spiner as well in Group H. They're locked together at the moment. But here's Javi Rodriguez in the Honda. Going over the line now. Is the time any better than it was before? It is indeed. The 59.3. 1.4 seconds quicker than what it was before, and without problems, he's looking very, very good. A 6th victory on the bounce here. John Spider is trying to get his 4th victory on the bounce. In recent weeks, he's really been extending his championship margin. As we're seeing a slow Andreas, he's after the finish, sorry, he's after the finish, so we can all calm down, but it was worrying briefly. Roosevelt goes 7 tenths quicker than he did on the previous run. Now it's the turn of John Spider to either extend the half a second lead he has at the moment, or lose a bit of time and really tighten this one up going into the final run of the day. And a big, oh god, that was a big slide through the left-hander. It's getting faster and faster that corner with the track conditions, and some of the cars just don't quite have the downforce to take it without severe driver intervention. And John Spider was earning his money's worth there. Really nice lines being taken as well. He's really at one with that car now, as he has been for the last few. He's been absolutely relentless over the summer months. Here he is coming towards the line for the 2nd time today. Over the line he goes now, and it's not quite as good. It's pretty much exactly the same as what he did last time, but the fact that Roosevelt is going quicker has really tightened this one up in Group H for the final run. Between the two of them, the gap is only 3 tenths of a second in John Spider's favour heading on to the final round. That is going to be an extremely high intensity few minutes for both of those guys coming up in the next few moments. Melodis Corrales, I'm afraid, has lost a bit more time to Rodriguez. Yeah, around about 5 seconds between the two of them, and Nick Kosekidis not having a great time of things either by the looks of things. He's falling adrift. We'll see if he can get any closer to Corrales maybe, but it really would be a huge improvement in the Fiat Punto. And he's struggling now into the barrier on the outside again. It's almost behaving like it's got a bit of damage, that car. It has been into the wall a couple of times. Could obviously be the cause, but doesn't look like he's quite going at full pace. History taking it a little bit gingerly into some of these turns. You can hear, some of the cars coming up in the background as well, which is never a good sign of a good time, and he has lost a bit of time. Oh, I say that, quicker than he was last time around, but he didn't quite look up to pace really. The top 3 in E1 2000 anyway, looking pretty set in stone by this time now. As the 3 start to extend the margin between all of them. Uriah Hernandez looking on course for maybe even a 3rd place at the moment, although he's got a lot of work to do. And Patrick Fossey, who went faster than him last time, Olive Tan as well, Ludovic Carvet, I think, went faster. No, scratch that, excuse me. Patrick Fossey went faster, but none of the others I just mentioned did. Hernandez slotted himself into 4th, which is where he was before, but he was behind Philip Raab before. Whereas it's no longer Philip Raab, it's Patrick Fossey, who joined pretty late on in qualifying, so he's certainly just getting his eye in as well in these conditions especially. It's the long right-hander coming up here with the rocks on the outside. You really want to be avoiding them. Not only because you don't want to hit the rocks, but keeping a tight line through there does open out your options heading onto this short straight here as well, which is what you want, especially in a slower car where momentum is important, as it is for Uri Hernandez right here. You know what the time is now. Slightly quicker than what he managed before, but Patrick Fossey may well be able to go just that little bit quicker and get onto the podium. So we take another look at the Mercedes 198 by Jose Villegas. Plenty of cars out there at the moment, as you can see. Well, one of them coming over the line as we speak. It was Philip Rahm, showing himself to be very quick indeed, and certainly would have been on the podium had it not been for... Well, he still might be. He still might have a chance here, maybe, of at least getting in front of Hernandez, because he lost about 12 seconds to Hernandez, 12.2 seconds in that first run, but he just gained 5.7. He nearly gained half of his margin back again. It's not out of the question for Rob. If he wants to get anywhere near John Spider in this championship, then he's going to have to. Not sure if it's still a realistic target for him, but it might be possible. Well, that looks like most of the second heat is now complete. Olive Tan is sat waiting at the start to begin the final run of the second heat, but the third will be coming up very shortly after that. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then when we come back, the final runs on the Dobšinský Kopec will be upon us. We'll be back in a moment.
The 2021 virtual Dobšinský Kopec Hill Climb is presented in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, Elite Gaming, ESTV, and MotorVision.tv.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
A 1v2 for the tournament. Pressure is on.
Welcome back to the final run of the Dobšinský Kopec hill climb for 2021 here in the European Hill Climb Championship. It's our 8th round, and there are 5 more to go after this one. Starting in 2 weeks' time, broadcasted all, of course, by GTR24H, and it is going to be our next broadcast, I'm pretty sure, in 2 weeks. The next hill climb. After that, things get a little bit more busy, but we'll talk about that in the future. Yes, this next round is going to be broadcasted by us as always. As I mentioned, final run coming up now. A chance to see who's going to be victorious in all of these classes. And a word on the battle for third in Group H, because I was talking about it briefly before the break, but it looks like, well, first of all, Philip Robb might not get there, but more importantly, Patrick Fossey might well just hold off Uri Hernandez. He put nearly 2 seconds into him last time, and if you presume he did something similar to him the time before that, then becoming a difficult task for Hernandez to actually get his first podium, but still an improvement. His best place so far has been 5th, so it would still be an improvement as we look at some highlights from the event so far. Agius Andrea, I think in qualifying, when we were looking at him late on, put that time in quite late to get himself second in the positioning. At the moment, he's not been making great use of it. That's Paranopoulos in qualifying making a bit of a mistake. Thankfully, none of those so far in this event proper, but he hasn't quite been on par with Tobias Bashadov, who looks like he might extend his championship lead to 27 points. Starting to become quite a big margin now. So briefly interrupt ourselves, because Sebastian Renat is at the start. There he's in the first part of the lap. In the very long left-hander now. He's going to really not be letting off the full throttle from now until about 30 seconds time, 20 seconds time really. There it is all the way down there, the long straight we've seen so many times. Renat's got a half a minute advantage over Francois Coratti before this final run. And there's Coratti in the Norma, top right hand side of his screen. As I said before, the Norma's inferior in terms of stats in every aspect to the Ocello really. This is why it's not been able to claim any of the 6 victories on offer so far, but Francois Coratti doesn't look like changing that here today, although Renat just went a little bit wide onto the grass there. He just needs to keep things on the road really and make sure he doesn't get a DNF from the day. As I've said before, he's got nothing to worry about in terms of the championship, Sebastian Renat, because he's got 92 points of an advantage. It looks like he's going to extend that even further to over 100 here today, because Francois Coratti is not in second, so going to be a big lead, and we're almost getting towards the point where Renat can actually win this championship already. He goes over the line for the final time, and he, without barring an absolute miracle, will be winning the 8th round of the European Hill Climb Championship in 2021. It's his fastest time of the day. He looked a little bit less frantic than his second run actually, but it was clearly a lot calmer and more considered on this occasion. And obviously faster as well by a small margin. So we'll just make sure, we'll watch Karate over the line to make sure he hasn't performed a miracle here, but it looks like he's going to be second overall. And we'll go again as everybody tries to defeat Sebastian Renan one way or the other. But he was never actually able to go as quick as he did on his first run, which is something we don't see very often. But let's go to some of the classes where things are a little bit closer. A bit more up for grabs in E1 plus 2000. Tobias Bashadorf leading the pack at the moment. Has a bit of a lead over Paranopoulos at the moment. 9 temps gained in the first runs and another 1.5 in the second, giving him a 2.4 second lead heading into this final run here. And a solid time will get him another win. Oh, it's more than solid. It's a magnificent time. It's an absolutely extraordinary time. 1.3 seconds quicker than he's managed throughout the entire day. And there's no way Paranopoulos is getting anywhere near that. Never mind 2.5 seconds quicker than it. So Bashadorf, I just said, needed a solid time, but he's put in a very, very strong time. The fight is really on for second here. Andre with a lot to do. And he hasn't set the world on fire with that lap time. A 47.6 from him. Came in 2.2 seconds behind Paranopoulos. And what's the time going to be for the Ford Escort? Over the line now. And it's pretty good from Paranopoulos. By far his best performance of the day. To seeing himself second place in this one. Oh, it's off the road. It's Andre after the finish line. Going for a big rollover. But there we are. He's going to end the day pretty disappointed, I think, with how things have gone. Just setting off right now, Javier Rodriguez and Andres Rosival have left the start line. And now this is very important indeed. Chris Bennett is just driving slowly to get around here. Making sure he gets to the end of this one. He's the only car in his category, so he's racing against himself, but that's one of the things you can do at Hill Climb, really, race against yourself, and race against some of the cars in the other classes. It's quite well matched to the E1 plus 2000 cars, so it does often give them a run for their money. As we're seeing, this is a car in the... We could be seeing a DNF here for Angelopoulos. Let's have a look. Oh, clips the inside of the corner. Oh, front right wheel comes off. Front bumper as well, and there's no way he's getting that to the finish. So it's heartbreak at the end for Angelopoulos. Chris Bennett gets to the end, thankfully, but Pascalis Angelopoulos is going to score no points. He's not going to get to the end of this race, this event. Rain is really affecting these guys once again, and that might play into the hands of John Spider, who's... it might play into the hands of Javier Rodriguez, who had the driest conditions of maybe everybody who's going to be coming on after him. So, yeah, let's see. Rodriguez has got a pretty big lead anyway. It's Group H we really are excited to see, but let's see if Rodriguez can make it 6 out of the last 6. He was second place of the first event on the Col Saint-Pierre, and ever since then he's not looked down from the top step of the podium. May well be a similar story here today. I'll just update you on the time while we listen to the roar of that engine from John Spider. Rodriguez with a solid time. That should be enough. Should be more than enough to see him through. Andreas Rosival is not far from the finish. Slows down for the final hairpin. accelerates around the right-hander and goes towards the line. And it's not great. It's the slowest time today. It's the slowest time of the day from Andreas Roosevelt. A 3-minute 1.0. John Spider, though, is in a little bit of trouble. He's pushing hard. We've got a 3/10 advantage coming into this. He needs to just be within 3/10 of Andreas Roosevelt. And he will take this one. His 4th victory in the last 4. He's certainly trying hard, but is he trying a little bit too hard? Certainly wetter than we saw it a little bit earlier. He's running it right out to the wall on the right hand side. Just one more braking zone to go, and this is it right here. This is the moment. Spider's a little bit wide, but uses the camber of the turn to negate his mistake a little bit, and now accelerates through the right-hander. Is it going to be enough for the win for John Spider? He goes over the line, and it is going to be enough. A 59.9 is a very, very strong lap time indeed. He needed to be within 3/10 of Andreas Roosevelt. He was actually over a second quicker on the final run there, so he's going to take the win on the Dobšinský Kopec. The Slovakian round of the European Hill Climb Championship is going to go to him for Group H. Very impressive once again from John Spider. It looks like it might be a little bit too early to say this, but looks like anyway he's heading on his way to a championship, 60 points in front of his rivals at this point. Unfortunately, it's going to be the second place in a row for Validis Corrales in Renault Clio. Once again, he's not been able to topple Javi Rodriguez in any 3 of the runs today. Certainly gave us some hope with his qualifying performance, but just didn't quite have it in the end. So he's going to have to go back to the drawing board for the Italian or the first Italian round in 2 weeks' time. As we're seeing, no front bumper already. This is exceptionally early in the lap, but no front bumper. Frank Dupar, I think this is. Frank Dupar with no front bumper already. Well, off the road is Philip Raab for the second time today. He's already had one issue. His first run today, he came unstuck. That looks like it's at the long straight section. Well, puzzling how he's managed that one, but Philip Raab is not even going to have a sniff of a podium today. It's probably not going to be a top 5 considering how long it's taking him to get out of there now. Oh! Just as we cut away there was into the trees, Frank Dupar. And now he's trying to get out of them, and he can't. It's a DNF for Dupar. Let's see how it happened. Very bizarre. Oh, he just clips the... Does he? Oh, there's no way he's getting that turned. He started so far off to the left-hand side of the road there, and he just didn't turn. Well, I'm sure he was turning, but the car wasn't complying. Girai Hernandez completes a very consistent and solid day there. None of his lap times were... They were all within 3/10 of each other, which is an exceptional mark of consistency. However, I think the unlucky thing for him today is that Patrick Fossey has been fairly consistent himself, but a little bit quicker than Girai Hernandez, so the Spaniard may well be denied his first podium. In the end, it's Philip Raab. Oh dear. Loses a good 35 seconds to the leaders on that one, and he's going to be finishing this day well down towards the end, well down towards the bottom when the results come in. That's a real shame for him. Shirai Hernandez completing his event in Slovakia. It's a fan a few times. Are starting now. This is Ludovic Calvé, excuse me. With the fast right-hander. Jose Villegas is about to complete as well. Lots of Opel GT Psychos out here at the end. There's 3 of them out of the 4 that are still on the circuit, and it's going to be 3 out of 3 in a minute. Because Uri Rodriguez is getting here for the finish in a moment as well. Not to be confused with Uri Hernandez, of course. He's, I believe, just finished 4th. Well, I say just finished 4th. Patrick Fossey is not finished yet. He's currently holding 3rd, so it could even be a better day for Hernandez just yet. This is Rodriguez going slowly because he's just finished in just under 3 minutes 17. Patrick Fossey is just accelerating for the final time now towards the line, and it looks like he's been incident-free in this one. He's lost a couple of seconds there. So it's going to be fairly close, but I think he'll be alright. Not 100% sure, but I think he will be alright. Getting the podium. It's a great story for either one of those two, though, to get on the podium. Neither of them have had particularly... neither of them have been on the podium yet, so it would be a good story. As Ludovic Calvé comes over the line. Not a bad time from him, actually, getting in front of a few of the Group H cars. Not that far away from Fossey either. Olive Tan and the green Opel is going to be rounding off the day for us all. Over 400 horsepower under his right foot at the moment, and unfortunately though, over 1100 kilograms, which is certainly one of the heftier cars. Nearly double the weight of the Osella and the Norma, for example, and certainly more than double the weight of the Tatas Formula car. So it is weighed down a little bit in that respect. Either way, he's just got one more braking zone and one more acceleration zone to negotiate. As he also takes the popular wide line through that very tricky and off-camber, steeply uphill hairpin, and finally across the line in style into the trees. And he goes 6th on that particular round of times for Group H. There are all the times that everybody has completed all 3 runs. Well, say everybody. Most of them have got to the end today, fortunately. We've seen a few incidents and accidents along the way, but most of them did indeed get to the end. We're going to take one final commercial break, and then when we come back, we'll be tidying everything up for you, cleaning it up, and having some unofficial standings and race results for you. So don't go anywhere. We'll be updating you with some unofficial race results after the break, and so make sure you join us for those.
The 2021 virtual Dobšinský Kopec Hill Climb is presented in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, Elite Gaming, ESTV, and Motorvision.tv.
A 1v2 for the tournament. Pressure is on.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
Welcome back to the Dobšinský Kopec hill climb here in Slovakia, where we've just had the 8th round of the European Hill Climb Championship for 2021. It's Sebastian Renard who's taken the overall victory here once again by over 45 seconds in the end to Francois Corratti. A real dominant display once again from him. We just come back briefly after the event to show you some highlights on your screen right now, as you can see, and also update you on what the standings might look like and who may, or who are the winners at least from the categories in this particular event. So as I just mentioned, Renard obviously winning the E2 3000 category after another dominant performance from him. It's his 6th on the bounce now and extends his championship lead to over 100 points. And as I mentioned earlier, we're getting towards the point where he can already seal it. I think next time out he might be able to seal it next time out. So yeah, watch out for that one. It's definitely a possibility in the near future, in the next 2 weeks. In E1 plus 2000, thankfully, it's a little bit closer than that. But today it was all about Tobias Bashadorf once again. He took a win in front of Antonis Paranopoulos and Agios Andre. That's how the three of them lined up in the championship going into today, and we just extended some of those margins. Bashadorf now 27 points in the championship lead, Paranopoulos 3 points in front of Agios Andre, who's 30 points now behind Bashadorf. Those two really need to start closing the gap in the final 5 rounds. That is the closest championship certainly to be watching in the coming weeks. Group H was an absolute treat today. We had Andres Roosevelt turning up, and Immediately turning on the afterburners. He was absolutely brilliant from start to finish. Very consistent. All his times were within a second of each other. Even less than that, nearly 3/4 of a second of each other. But unfortunately for him, John Spider was just that little bit quicker in the end. Over a second faster on that final run, where he really pulled a magnificent time out of the bag. That allowed him to take the win in front of Roosevelt. And then Patrick Fossey, I believe, is just about going to hold on to third in front of Uri Hernandez, but very close duel between the two of them for the final podium spot today, which was another point of entertainment throughout. In terms of the standings, John Spider is going to extend that margin to over 60 points now. So he's starting to run away with that championship just a little bit as things stand. Similar situation with Javier Rodriguez in E1 2000. He came in with nearly 70 points, 68 points to his name, in front of David Tashev, who was second. Not here today, David Tashev. But Rodriguez does extend his margin over Koksekidis, who came third today. That margin now 87 points with 5 rounds to go. A big margin between those two as well. It was Rodriguez who took the full 25 points for the 6th race in a row, in front of Valadis Corrales for the 3rd race in a row. Corrales is still struggling to topple the Spaniard. Maybe it's going to be his time next round, we'll wait and see. But today, he just wasn't quite quick enough. Neither was Nick Koksekidis, who came home 3rd. And so they're going to have to all try again to get past Javier Rodriguez at some point, who was formidable once again. That's just about it. We'll look through the class winners and some of the standings, some of the championship standings getting very expanded and stretched out indeed. But E1 Plus 2000 is especially worth watching and worth tuning in for. And either way, these hill climb events are worth tuning in for in isolation anyway, as Group H proved today. Not the closest championship, but an exceptionally close event. Just over a second separating John Spider and Andres Roosevelt by the end of it all. Coming down to the very final corners, John Spider pulling absolutely everything out of his car to take another win. He's 4th on the bout and really take a step forward in this championship. We will hope you will join us next time out, where we're heading to Italy and the Trento Bondone. It's going to be a very interesting event once again. A very famous hill climb on the Monte Bondone, and yeah, we're massively looking forward to it. So we hope you join us then here on GTR 24H. We'll be broadcasting the event in 2 weeks' time. That coming up on the 11th of October, of course. Thanks very much to everybody who's tuned in tonight, though. It's been thoroughly enjoyable having you along once again. And yeah, I hope you will come join us in 2 weeks' time. But for now, from me, Yoda Leary, and everybody at GTR 24H, it's goodbye for now.
The 2021 virtual Dobšinský Kopec Hill Climb is presented in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, Elite Gaming, ESTV, and MotorVision.tv.
conflict. A 1v2 for the tournament. Pressure is on.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.